How can I tell my friend 36? He talks way too long about things that aren't that interesting. My friend Henry is a great guy. I have known him for 6 years, and he's one of my closest friends. No romantic interests from either side. We have been there for each other through relationships, breakups, promotions, travels, and general tomfoolery. He isn't always delivering his opinion or wisdom in the most tactful way, and I believe he is definitely on the narcissistic spectrum. But he is overwhelmingly supportive and helpful whenever needed. All that is to say, I appreciate him dearly, and I am not going to cut him off in any capacity for the below. But the issue has been ramping up for at least 3 years, and I am starting to feel bad about it. The issue is when he starts talking about things that are interesting to him. He can talk forever, without pause, with oppressive amounts of precision, about details no other human but him could possibly care about. A fascinating or deeply personal story would take what? 5-6 minutes to share at most. He has the capacity to make the most mundane story drag on for hours, without exaggeration. For all you fans out there, think Rachel's letter to Ross level of detail. Example 1. He really enjoys cooking, and we have shared multiple recipes throughout the year. We exchange pictures of our culinary successes and failures, and poke fun at each other for results that are more abstract art than edible. However, when he's excited about a dish, he will describe the dish. Tell me about the ingredients. Tell me where he got them from, how he prepared them, how this dish is a variation of a previous dish, how other people responded to the dish, what he thinks of doing next time, and literally talk about it non-stop for the 1 hour it takes for him to actually make. Example 2. He is an aspiring author and admittedly writes very well, with some small commercial recognition. I have worked at a publishing company for years and can see his talent. So I have always encouraged him to write alone or cooperatively and share with me his ideas. However, instead of an overview, he will describe his stories, plots and settings and world building, and his characters' backstory and motivations and morals in excruciating detail. He will spend literally hours taking me through pages and pages of notes, and when he asks my opinion, the few minutes I can speak and share my perspective, he will then spend another hour loud thinking, examining whether it would fit his plot, with the occasional check-in with me. Example 3. Magick the Gathering is a card game, and one of his favourite online pastimes, with the quarantine and him being furloughed. It's now something he does every day for an hour or two. I used to play 15 years ago, and I understand the basics of the game. So I was happy to listen to how his games went, or what this new card does, or how he built his deck. However, I just finished listening to him chronicling the story of his latest match. He described his deck, his opponent's deck, his best cards, what each of them does as strategy, his every move, his reactions, his opponent's reactions, ... You get the gist. The game itself took 10-15 minutes, start to finish. His telling of it took 34 and counting. I say counting because this is happening right now. I'm typing this. We have been talking for an hour, and I maybe have said about 50 words in total. I absolutely want to be excited for my friend, because that is what friends do, enjoy their friends' excitement, right, and love him dearly. But if he's talking about things that aren't all that generally exciting, and he talks non-stop to boot, I find myself getting so mind-numb that I actually fall asleep. I have now taken to multitasking, only giving him the occasional whoa, nice or egg, and for the most part he's so tangled in the reliving of the story that he doesn't even notice. The very few times he caught me not paying attention, he's been incredibly hurt, because when you talk to me, You have all of my attention, and I want to respond, of course. I do, Henry, because when I talk to you, I actually involve you in the discussion and don't go on and on and on and on describing mundane details in torturous levels that contribute nothing to the root of the story. It actually makes me sad because I recognize how involved he is with these topics, and I feel like a bad friend that I can't match my level of attention to his level of excitement. I can hang in there with the best of them, but somewhere between all the different ways to Julian Mazzocchini, and all the reasons why this character's tragic backstory ties to that olden clerk, I lose the will to live, let alone talk to him. How do I politely tell him to forego the details he's sharing? How do I politely ask him to wrap up a story that has been numbing my neurons for at least 30 minutes? Please note that I said he does this with things that are of interest to him. When we talk about things that are more serious or important to either of us, be it personal issues, politics, our plans, it's more of a discussion, and there's equal representation in the dialogue. He doesn't talk over me or monopolize the conversation too much. The issue is only when he's talking about something fun and exciting, at least in his mind, that happened to him. Tor, my friend, tends to ramble on for ages when he's talking about stuff that is interesting to him, and it makes me lose my will to live. I am not sure he's narcissistic. I think he's on the autistic spectrum. It's very common for people with Asperger's to get very involved, obsessive, and enthusiastic about set topics and not be able to recognize when the person they're talking to has had enough. He's so caught up in his passion that he's not able to read the signs that you are bored, that said. I don't know how you would tell him since you've managed to be so patient for so long. This is who he is as a person, and if you ask him for the abridged version, he would probably be upset as he enjoys talking to you. Maybe you could say, tell me about, but can you summarize it so I can get a clear picture in my head at the main points? That might get him to try to whittle it down, which would be good practice for him. He may even enjoy. Then, when he's done his summary, you can enthuse and maybe either change the subject or ask him to elaborate on one point, but generally be more involved in the conversation. He would probably like you to rein him in. Like others have mentioned, he's probably on the autism spectrum and just doesn't realize. I had a friend like this in college. The highlight was the time he came into the room where I was playing video games, talked at me for an hour. Without me saying a word, I think I gave him a headlock when he came in the room and then wandered off. He did the kind of thing pretty regularly, but when we talked to him about it, he was totally upfront that sometimes I just kind of ramble. And you can stop me if / when you're not interested. I would just ask him directly. Sometimes when you get excited about stuff, you stop having a conversation and you're just info dumping. I love / care about you, and I enjoy hearing about these things, but I only have so much bandwidth for the details of the Meg match. Other examples. Can we arrange some kind of signal for when I'm feeling overwhelmed? Sounds like he's on the spectrum to me. My boyfriend has Asperger's and often rattles on about the things he's currently into, though maybe a little less than your friend. On the other hand, have quite a short attention span and can get overwhelmed if I go too long without some quiet. Here are 2 things that have helped. 1, he's allowed to talk and I'm allowed to zone out. He knows that he's free to tell me about anything, but he also knows that I'll probably be staring into space for half of it. We've established that I'll tell him if I've really had enough. We both know that it's not about a lack of care for him or the subject. It's just about how much I can take in that moment. Sometimes I'm tired of listening. Sometimes my head hurts. Sometimes I just want to be quiet and hold his hand. I still like to ask about his interest when I get my energy back, though. It's really cute seeing him get excited about things. 2. Shifting my own perspective helped a lot. I apply this one to everyone I can, not just my partner. I recently realized that it's quite a privilege to be on the receiving end of someone's ramblings, even if it can be draining. People who struggle with oversharing often don't act this way towards everyone, in fact. They must really have a lot of love and trust for you in order to do so. To speak about their interests in such detail and at such length takes a lot of vulnerability. It's really quite a lovely thing when you think about it. Having someone feel so comfortable with you that their filter slips a little bit, it can be frustrating, but ultimately it's all very sweet, kind and blunt communication paired with gratitude is the way forward, in my opinion. It's possible that your issue here is more than just oversharing, but I thought I'd give a little advice just in case. Take care.